All right, we got a lot to get through. Let's kick it off.
Boom.
Okay, a couple quick logistics here. Don't forget to fill out the writing goal survey. That'll be in your inbox once you've claimed your 7th badge. So if you haven't claimed at least 7 badges, you haven't had access to it yet. But once you claim your 7th badge, you'll see that in an email. Today's badge catch-up day, so make sure you get all your badges so you're ready to hit the second half of the course running or swimming, I should say. Our next live call is Tuesday. We have Twitter threads and LinkedIn posts. One of our favorites, we're getting to the nitty-gritty, kind of more advanced stuff. And then the most exciting part, we're going to talk a little bit today. Keep an eye out for early Captain's Table invitations hitting inboxes this week. A lot of you are crushing it. We want to make sure that we want you around this community for the long haul. So be on the lookout for those in your inbox over the coming days.
Epic.
Want to miss anything?
No. Just get ready. Tuesday's going to be super tactical. We're going to get way into the weeds. So if you can, make that session. And if not, the replay's there for you.
Awesome.
Look at all these badges.
All right, here we are. Halfway checkpoint. We're getting thinner and thinner. And here's what we got. All these amazing names. Get your screenshots. The halfway checkpoint leaderboard in action. Amazing work, everyone. Amazing work. A lot of just good, prolific output from all of you. It's been so fun to read. Has everyone checked out the Twitter list that we updated? So that went live on Wednesday or Thursday this week. So it took us a little bit because we were, what do you call it when a ship is stuck in the harbor, Cole? Like we ran aground and Twitter was limiting us on adding. So the Twitter list is helpful to find other shippers. But amazing work, everyone, because today, let's make sure we get the last slide in there.
Look at all these J's. We got J's just crushing it.
The K's, the J's, the M's. Amazing. Amazing. Good work. Good work. Keep it up, everyone. Keep it up. Dry dock.
We got 3 Z's hanging.
That's right.
Can't drop out Z's. You're carrying the end of the rope here.
Good work. Good work. Okay. So today's gold doubloons, very important, exciting one. We got 3 gold doubloons coming to you. Everyone who wins today gets a Dickey and Cole type share template pack. These are Twitter thread openers, LinkedIn post openers. They go perfectly with Tuesday's live session. So we're giving away 3 of these. You win. Each person wins 1 of each. And who's going to pick today? The 4th person to drop ship in the chat gets to pick 1, 2. All right, enough. 1, 2, 3. All right, Ryan. Ryan is picking numbers today. What are the, how many do we have? Daniel, 0, 1 to what? 370. 1 to 370. Ryan, we need 3 numbers. What do we got? 23, 42, and 370. All right. Good work. Good work. Daniel, who do we got? Gene from the captain's table. Amazing. Next, we got Nicola, also from the captain's table. The captain's table is taken home. So that's what you get when you come back and you crush it. We got 1 more. And Julia Stencil. All right. So we got 3 gold doubloons out the gate. These are going to get more and more exciting, more and more lucrative as we move forward into the back half because the leaderboard gets thinner and thinner. So amazing stuff. Good work, everyone. Congrats.
Nice.
All right, let's keep rocking. Bonus halfway checkpoint reward today. When you get your 13th badge, you're going to get a Twitter banner with your name auto-generated with your Twitter handle and your name in the top right. Throw it in your Twitter banner or Twitter bio. You can see mine. I got to change mine to this beautiful white one. So Daniel, our head of automation, has an incredible setup to create these on the fly. So we're going to make these every time you claim your 13th badge. So be on the lookout for those. Make sure you share it on Twitter when it goes live. We're all about that ship daily mindset. So keep it up. Amazing stuff.
Epic. We got some cool shout outs here. So once we get into weeks 3 and 4 of Ship 30, you're going to start seeing more and more people go, oh, now that I've written and published on a consistent basis, my niche is starting to reveal itself. So Risha, when we saw this, amazing, always fun when that starts to happen. In the later sessions, we're going to dig into obviously how to be more conscious of this, but if you come to that conclusion on your own, that's amazing. Another one, Dickie, this reminded me of your own journey, right? Early on, getting
Mhm.
retweeted by Tim Ferriss. Very cool.
The Tim Ferriss, I was featured in his 5 Bullet Friday in February of 2020, and that was a full circle moment for me. And it was a Twitter thread I'd written. He said, Twitter thread I'm enjoying. Put it in 5 Bullet Friday. I'd listen to every episode. It's amazing. You have no clue who is reading when you put your ideas on the internet. But all you can guarantee is that if you're not putting your ideas out there, no one is reading them. So keep on shipping.
And one of the things we always like to point out is this would never happen on your blog, right?
Mhm.
This is the whole purpose of writing in social environments because we're all on an equal playing field. So nice job. Andy, 2 weeks in, that Twitter dashboard's starting to look pretty green.
Mhm.
If you haven't already, I encourage everyone here to open up your Twitter analytics. And it is wild how even just doing something consistently for 7 days, 14 days, it can't not have a positive impact, right? So especially if you're starting from zero, all your charts are up and to the right. So if you haven't seen that yet, you should go check out your own analytics because they're looking pretty green.
There you go.
And then Courtney here did get this amazing exercise. We have a deep dive on this. Dickie went through and did the same thing, but using the endless idea generator to come up with 114 topics. That is one of those things where if you take 2 hours and go do that, you now have clarity for the next 3 to 6 months. And it's pretty wild to think that you can do that in just 1 or 2 or 3 hours. So if you haven't gone through and read that deep dive or done that exercise, highly encourage it. It's really, really helpful.
All right. So to claim your next badge, you're going to comment on today's replay with either your 15th essay, if you're 15 for 15, or just if you're still shipping with us, doesn't matter what your streak is, leave a comment with your biggest takeaway of the first 2 weeks, and you will claim your prolific shipper badge. When you do that, if you're hitting every single badge, then you will be well on your way to getting that Twitter banner and lots of other exciting unlocks to come after that.
Epic.
Okay, Cole, what have we done in the first 2 weeks?
So we're gonna do a little recap here, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. We've thrown a lot at you. So in the first session, you remember we covered lean writing, this idea of making noise, listening for signal, very much focused on exploration, right? Starting small, testing small ideas, and then expanding on the ones that you notice working. In the second section, we talked about idea generation. So all of the different ways that you can come up with ideas. Anytime you sit down to write, you're not sure who I'm writing for, how to get more specific, what it's about, why it matters, right? All of that kind of wrapped up in the endless idea generator. Session 3, we got into headlines. So headlines being, okay, you know what you want to write about. Now, how do you hook the reader's attention? And the biggest thing we talk about and that we shared was, if you feel like you're writing something that is valuable to someone else, it is your moral obligation to do whatever you need to do to get them hooked and to get their interest, because once they're in the content, then it's going to help them, right? But if your headline doesn't get them into the writing, you can't help them. And then session number 4, we went over some formatting techniques. So things like prepping the page, doing a brief outline, organizing using subheads, the 1-3-1 writing rhythm, all sorts of different things, right? Keeping the reader engaged all the way down the page and making it easy for them to skim to find what they're looking for. So to kind of just set the tone here, we'll open it up to some questions. We're going to walk through each one of the core frameworks from these sessions, pause at each one. Any questions that you have, we're happy to answer them. But we're going to keep the focus more on what we've covered so far, knowing that we've got another 2 weeks of new things that we're going to get into.
Yeah, it's important to keep in mind that we've packed an entire year's worth of writing curriculum into just 2 weeks. So we want to take day 15 to pause quickly, make sure that we can answer any questions you have, because the next 2 weeks, we kind of take things up a little bit. We go into some more advanced topics, Twitter threads, LinkedIn posts. We're going to give a preview of what's to come, how that relates to the captain's table as well. So we're going to start with open question and answer on each of these. So get your questions ready, and then we'll finish up with a little sneak peek.
Yeah. So let's kind of recap and then we'll pause on each one. So lean writing. So before you go invest a ton of time into building a larger asset, and that larger asset could be anything. It could be, I have a business idea, all the way down to, I have an email course idea, I have an online course idea, I have an ebook idea, I have an ultimate guide idea, even I have a Twitter thread idea, right? What is the smallest, most atomic way that you can test that idea? And can you gather some data telling you this is interesting to readers before you start to double down and expand it, right? So we call this lean writing. So any questions on how this works, why we're such big believers in it? Have you tried this? What have you run into when trying to adopt this mindset?
So I'll share a little bit as we kind of get some questions, but I have done full lean writing. Every single atomic essay I have written during this cohort started as a tweet. And the way I've been doing it is every week I write about 15 to 20 tweets, and then I take the 5 to 7 most popular, and those become my atomic essays for the week ahead. I'm using the data I gather from individual tweets, turning them into essays and expanding those. And then from there, I'm going to take the ones that have taken off the most, expand them potentially into Twitter threads, newsletters, all of that.
So 2 great questions here. Marcia, yours first. How small is small enough? I tend to write about bigger abstract ideas. So the easy answer here is anytime you feel like I need to articulate more, right? It's a bigger idea. I need to explain more. Almost always what that means is you're trying to tackle too many things at one time. So in a really simple example, it means you're trying to explain 2 different things rather than one thing, and so anytime you feel like, oh, I also need to explain this and I also need to explain this, chances are it's not you need to talk about 2 or 3 things at once. It's that each one of those is its own thing. So how do you, instead of connecting multiple things in one piece, break them down into individual pieces? That's what it means to get as atomic as possible. Michael also asked a great question, which is, if you enjoy writing about different topics and say someone follows you one day because you're writing about topic A and then the next day you're writing about topic B, I think that is a little in the weeds. It's a little too every single thing I'm doing, everyone's paying attention to all the time. That's not true, right? And instead, you want to take the long view being you're building a library, a holistic library, right? And your goal is to attract people who are interested in broadly, like your entire library, versus I love this micro topic, but tomorrow it's a different micro topic and I'm not interested. That's a really short-term micromanagey, too in the weeds way of thinking about it. You want to think about the library as a whole.
All right. So another good question here is, can you show an example of a tweet that you expanded into an essay? So cool. I'm going to put these in the chat. What you can do is open them and then drag the browser into, or drag the tab into the browser you have the slides. So open both those. Yeah, there you go.
Does that pop up?
Yep. Okay. So here we have a tweet, right? How I warm up my writing routine. My 6 questions, super easy to share. A list of 6 things I wanted to see. Hey, are people interested in my personal writing process? You also might recognize this from our formatting live session. So from this, then we go, okay, this resonated. What was my atomic essay? The dead simple writing warm-up routine I've used to write every day for 600 days. You see right in the middle there is my exact tweet, and all I did was add some context around it. And so this is how you expand. And if you look, both of these were extremely successful. Lots of engagement, lots of good questions, helpful. And so this is how you think about a tweet becomes an atomic essay. If I had put something out there and was like, yeah, no one really cared, I probably wouldn't have doubled down, because this takes longer than the tweet itself.
Mm-hmm. And you can start mega atomically with a tweet, You can start atomically with an atomic essay, right? It's just always, how can I share this in a small container? That's all you're trying to do, and not try and talk about multiple things at the same time. You're trying to isolate ideas if you can. Some of these questions we're going to get into in the analytics session in 2 sessions, so I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, the takeaway I'll give you on, is my audience too small? And we talk about this in the analytics section. It's not. The question to answer is all relative, where if you have 3 likes, 10, most people go, oh, that's kind of the same, but that's a 300% increase. And so you're looking for these relative changes, not, hey, I'm not getting 1,000, so I don't have a big enough audience to tell. All you need is one comment to validate something, one extra piece of engagement, and then you can start to ask why. So as long as you, and if you're kind of in this, no one's engaging with my atomic essays, the people who give the most get the most. So I see time and time again, there are shippers who are commenting on everyone's essay, positive feedback. Hey, I love this. Thought you could improve this. Was a little confused here. Really like this point. And you go and look at theirs. Everyone is commenting back, giving them feedback. So instead of saying, why is no one engaging with what I'm doing? Instead, flip it around and say, I bet if I go give, they're all going to come back to me.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's another question here that was great, which is, so Mike, if you have an idea for a lead magnet, should you write about it first? So yes, this is the core of what we're saying, right? Before you go spend 10 hours writing a white paper, spend 10 minutes writing an atomic essay, right? Before you go spend 100 hours creating your whole course on a topic, go spend 10 hours writing a bunch of different atomic essays, validating all the ideas that you think are going to go into your course, right? It's this idea of, don't go waste a bunch of time building things that you don't know people are interested in. Find ways to test those ideas in small ways. And then when you gather data, double down on the ones that work. That's the whole idea here.
Yeah.
And Katerina, you asked, do you suggest experimenting with more topics at this stage rather than focusing on one? 100%. I mean, if you're still in the, I don't really know, right? We talked about both sides. It's what's working for people externally and what's working for you intrinsically, right? What do you get the most enjoyment out of? And if you're still trying to figure that out, write about anything and everything. It took me 3 years writing on Quora, writing about 25 different topics before I really figured out, oh, okay, this is really my sweet spot. Our goal is for it to not take you 3 years, right? How does it get compressed into 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, right? So whenever you realize a niche opportunity, it becomes very apparent. You care a lot about it. No one should have to like force you to wake up every day and be like, well, I got to go create this. I want to write about writing every day, right? It should also be something that you care about.
Yeah. Okay, so a bunch of questions on analytics. We are going to cover those in depth in our analytics section.
Yeah.
So let's keep rocking.
Okay, cool. So the next one is the endless idea generator. If you remember this beautiful slide here.
I love this slide, man.
This is like looking at a Rubik's Cube. There's a bunch of different pieces. And so out the gate, has anyone used this? Like when you sit down to write, do you walk through this framework? B, what pieces of this framework are still giving you friction? What's the question? What do you hesitate with? Is it the for who so that, doubling down specificity? Is it personal credibility versus borrowed credibility? Is it the 4 A's? Like, let's get in the weeds. Where do you get stuck and how can we clarify that?
Yeah, so as questions come in, I'll share how I'm using this right now. Is I'm basically going down some of my obsessions when I was growing up. So I've been reminiscing on, I really had 3 or 4 of them. In 2nd to 4th grade, it was speed cubing. So it's funny you said Rubik's Cube, because I basically spent 2 years of my life just solving a Rubik's Cube, trying to get faster. Then it was RuneScape. Then it was Call of Duty. And so I want to share like lessons I've learned from those and kind of tie it into a framework around letting children and kids growing up follow their obsessions. It's like a pillar piece I want to write. And so I'm using this to go down and saying, what were all the things that I learned that are really helpful to me today from these things I did as a kid? So that's how I'm using the EIG. I'm running it through the top, getting specific. I have personal credibility on all of them. There's a ton of different paths I can take. So I'm really almost overwhelmed. I'm trying to narrow it down.
So, okay. So I see this question of haven't used the EIG yet. Do I need to do the 2-year test first? Okay. So here's a quick example of why the 2-year test is so helpful and important when you do this. Say I wake up tomorrow and I go, I want to write about money. Okay. Well, going through this, immediately the first step I get stuck, right? Well, what specifically about money? And then I got to really rack my brain. I'm like, I don't really know. But if I do the 2-year test first, right? And I go, well, actually, I had this really interesting thing happen. I remember like 7 years ago, I got introduced through a family friend to set up my first IRA. I knew nothing about setting up an IRA. And my work, where I was working at the time, I didn't have a 401k, right? So my work didn't give me anything. I needed to set up a personal IRA. I remember I met with this family friend and I go to this coffee shop and he's explaining to me an IRA and how it works, right? I didn't know any of that 6 years ago, okay? If I'd used that moment, all of a sudden the EIG becomes really easy, right? Because what specifically am I talking about? I'm talking about setting up your first IRA in your early 20s or whatever I was like 24, 25, right? Then choose your credibility. Well, it's a bit of personal credibility because I went through it. And it's a bit of borrowed credibility because my family friend explained to me what it is. So I can kind of tell that story, right? And then which one of the paths? Well, the path is, you know what? I want to help the next 25-year-old set up their first IRA. So I'm going to make this actionable. Hey, here's all the things that I wish I understood about setting up my IRA when I was 25. And here's the 3 things you need to do to go set yours up, right? When you do the 2-year test first, it becomes so easy to understand how to move through the EIG. But when you don't do it first, you're kind of like, I don't get it.
Yep, I agree. Okay, a couple other good ones here. Let's see. Do you use this before each essay, or do you kind of have a plan? For me, I like to have a list of 4 to 5, exploring a single topic through a couple different lenses before I move on. I think it's too much where, for me, my writing process is get an idea and get bullet points down about it. And then that's one part. And then the next time I come back, I have a bunch of raw material, and that's when I do the actual writing. So I think that if you sit down and stare at the EIG, I got to come up with an idea. I got to write this whole thing. I separate idea generation and what I call writing, which is just getting ideas and bullet points down, and then editing, which is kind of hacking it all together. So I split it up and try to have like a list for the week.
Yeah. That's a great way of doing that.
I don't feel successful as a solopreneur, so I can't write about it yet. That means you're trying to write about something that you don't have enough credibility. But what do you have? That you've gotten to a point on your solopreneur journey that you can write about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're at this point of, hey, if you think you're alone right now, Karen, on other solopreneurs who feel the same way, that's what you want to write about. Your 2-year test is, I've gotten to a point where I'm starting to see a little success, but I'm not sure I have enough to really share my journey. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a ton of people out there who want to share numbers or share their expertise. And then you can help them and say, hey, you're not alone either. Right. So go ahead.
A really great example. I will never forget. I started my first company when I was 27. And the first time we had a client become a paying client, they go, great, where do I wire the money? And I didn't have a business bank account. And in like 2 days, I had to it was like a Friday. And I was like, well, I can't even open this on a Friday. Like, when does it close? And I'm like calling the bank and I'm like, oh, the client's trying to pay me my first like $2,000. And like, it's a just complete firestorm, right? And I'm like running to the bank and I'm trying to open my first account. And then on Monday, I went and wrote a Quora answer about how to open your first bank account as a founder. I didn't know anything else beyond how to open a bank account, except for the fact that in 48 hours, I figured out how to open a business bank account for my first client. Now I can write about it, right? So that's the beauty. It's a 2-year test. It's a 2-day test. It's a 2-hour test, right? If you feel imposter syndrome, that means you're trying to write about something you haven't done yet.
Mm-hmm.
And instead you want to go backward and go, what did I just do? Now go write about that.
It's great advice. Great advice. Any others on the EIG? Going once, going twice. 20-year test. Yes, the 2-year is just arbitrary. I'm doing the 15-year test, thinking about impactful obsessions I had in my childhood that are positively impacting me now. Like that's kind of my macro thing I want to start writing about. It's fun as heck too to do, by the way, if you've never done it. You get to go and revisit all the video games and things you played. So
and no, it doesn't all need to be personal. I used to write when I had my column with Inc. magazine, I used to write the majority of my columns about things my boss was learning. So I would be like, what did I just watch my boss learn this week? I'm going to go write a column about that. Right. A lot of times this is just about sitting down and kind of letting your wheels spin and just being like, how could I write about that? Right. It's not a I can't, it's a what would need to be true in order for me to write about that.
Mm-hmm. And then go do that thing if it's not true. Right. We talked about this yesterday during our captain's table call, Cole. It's like, if you want to write about something that you haven't done, go do it and then write about it.
Exactly.
We just shared this. Cole and I just had breakfast and I said, I want to start playing the ukulele. And you guarantee after I learn the ukulele, I'm going to make a quick couple series of how to start playing the ukulele, because 1, that's going to reinforce my learnings. And 2, that's what I'm an expert in. I bought a ukulele on Amazon and learned to play it in 3 days. Right.
Yep.
So that's the kind of mindset you want to start to think about.
There's a gazillion ideas out there. It's just about sitting there and letting your brain go, what could be true? That's all. Okay, let's keep it rocking. Headlines. Okay, headlines are a whole arts and crafts extravaganza. All right, I could talk about headlines for a month straight. I think it's one of the coolest skill sets you can develop as a writer. So first of all, who tried consciously these 5 different headline styles? When you've sat down to write, are you actively asking yourself, okay, I'm writing a list, I'm writing a story, I'm writing an opinion, I'm writing a question, right? The more conscious you are of what you're choosing, the easier it is for you to optimize and understand what needs to be changed in order to make your headline better.
Mm-hmm. And what's important to realize about headlines is it's one of those things you can never master. You are going to be writing headlines for a long time, but just sitting down and saying, which one of these am I writing and am I using the headline checklist? Do that every time. Who downloaded the headlines 1-pager that you unlocked after you claimed the badge? You've been using that as you sit down to write. Print that out, throw that next to your desk, and use that as you're creating ideas. That'll help you clarify exactly what you're trying to say as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I noticed
remember?
Yeah, a couple of things in the chat about headlines being too long. So first of all, yes, it can depend on what platform, like subject lines and emails get cut off. If you have too many words in your Medium headline, it gets cut off on the homepage, whatever. But the thing that we're trying to share is start by writing a full headline with all of the pieces in it. Train your brain to go, okay, what are all the things that I need in here? What's it about? Who's it for? Twist the knife. Why does it matter? Right? So ignore the external result, right? Forget open rate, forget, oh, my headline's getting cut off on Medium. Ignore the external result. Practice the skill of what are all the pieces I need? Then over time, what you're doing is you're keeping the pieces but you're compressing them. So how you make headlines shorter isn't a mysterious moonlight, right? It's not just I pick 3 words and now I have a short headline. What you're doing is you're taking your long headline and you're going, how can I get more economical with it? How can I say the same thing in less time? But you have to start with the long one in order to move into the short one.
100%. Twist the knife. So twist the knife is just once you're saying the benefit or the whatever the reverse of what you'll avoid. So instead of the benefit, but yeah, the mistake you'll avoid, it's just adding, right? And so it's use this endless idea generator to come up with endless ideas. And then instead of just saying endless ideas, it's endless ideas so you never stare at a blank page again, right? It's just upping the ante where the reader goes, wow, I'm unlocking a ton of benefits, not just one. So that's all. You're just adding a couple, 1 or 2 things where it's like twisting the knife is theoretical for just a little bit more, a little bit more.
Yep. Yeah.
Good question here on LinkedIn posts and Twitter threads. So here's what's fun about headline theory is once you understand a headline, what goes into it, the different platforms all have different ways of writing a headline. You have a Twitter thread lead in, you have a LinkedIn post, you have an email with subject line. All of those are the same thing. You're getting someone to engage with your writing, but there are different rules, and that becomes just a tactical game. So we're going to talk about those on our Twitter thread and LinkedIn post live session.
Yep. This is an interesting one, Tegan, saying by twisting the knife, I feel like I'm promising a lot, which I can't deliver in 300 words. So here's the thing is sometimes twisting the knife is just listing other outcomes or benefits that happen from the same thing. So for example, Dickie's endless idea generator idea, right? One headline could be how to come up with more ideas or how to use the endless idea generator to come up with more ideas, right? But what are other benefits that happen, right? Twisting the knife, how to come up with more ideas in less time so you can spend the rest of the day relaxing, right? All of those benefits come from using the EIG. So it's not, you're not making more unrelated promises. You're listing, if you do this one thing, here's more and more and more and more and more of the benefits that get unlocked, right? And that's a little nuance that you just need to make the decision of, not getting into new territory, but doubling down on the benefits and rewards that you get from this one thing.
Spot on. Anything else related to headlines? Going once? Going twice? Headline workshops.
So we do a bunch of this, just so everyone knows, we do a lot of this in the captain's table. We do weekly mastermind calls in the captain's table every Friday. This is a lot of what we do. We'll pull up writing. We'll do live rewrites. We'll show you how we do this. We'll do rewrites with other people on the captain's table. So if that's something that you find beneficial, then captain's table is probably going to be helpful for you.
Awesome. That's right, Don. All right. Going once, going twice. On to formatting. All right. So formatting.
So here's the big things on formatting. One, who has used these single sentence openers? Every time we do this session, the very next day, if not 2 hours later, I find myself going and using these 6 single sentence openers. They work. There's a reason why we emphasize them so much. Awesome. Looks like people are doing it.
Which one did you go with? Which one jumps to your head top of mind first every time? Moment in time? Weird, unique insight, declarative. The big takeaway is that you should never start a piece of writing with more than 1 sentence ever again.
Literally. Single sentence openers are the key. Okay, great. So the thing with single sentence openers, we talked about this in the formatting session, but as a recap, You can use these in a lot of different ways. You can use these as the first sentence of your essay, the first sentence of your Twitter thread, the first sentence of your email, whatever you're writing. You can use them as the first sentence of a section, right? So how do you rehook the reader again and again? So after each subhead, single sentence opener, right? You can use these single sentence openers as the subheads themselves, right? So what would it look like if in your atomic essay, all three of your subheads were strong declarative sentences, or were moments in time, or were weird, unique insights? The idea here is that these are hooks. And so part of the trick of keeping readers engaged is putting hooks all down the page, right? It's like getting them back over and over and over again. Remember, there's a cat video on YouTube somewhere just asking them to turn their attention away, right? So you need to keep laying hooks to keep the reader engaged.
What else we got? Any questions? We need questions.
Okay.
Sorry, gotta go watch a cat video.
All right, see you, Michael. I know the cat videos are really great.
I've been there. All right, questions about single sentence openers, formatting. These, again, are the fundamentals that you can apply to any platform, right? So now that you have headlines and formatting and ideas, you can write on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Medium, on Reddit, on Hacker News, you're going to write better emails. You're going to write better Slack messages. You have learned the fundamentals of writing on a screen, which is digital writing.
Yes. Who's used 131 ever since we introduced it in the formatting session? How's 131 going? Does that make sense? Any questions? I feel like once 131 gets shared, it's like a whole world opens up.
So I don't think there's much to break down other than it's just one sentence, three sentences, one sentence, or one sentence, three bullets, one sentence.
Yep.
131 worth the price of admission. We've seen that a lot. Anything? How about tips on bold, italics, highlighting? I think you just want to stay consistent there, where either you're bolding one word or you're bolding a whole sentence, because bolding and highlighting are cues to the reader that these sentences, you should be able to just read these and like get a sense for the piece. Where people go wrong is sometimes they bold a word and then they bold a whole sentence and then they bold a three words, and it's just confusing to the reader. Like, I don't know, these aren't helping guide me, right? I think of bold and highlighting as another layer of skimming that someone is going to do versus adding much emphasis.
Yes. Yeah, with things like bolding, highlighting, all of those, less is always more. Less is more. That's why the majority of what we talk about are the overarching fundamentals. It's all that little stuff almost ends up being distractions rather than helpful.
That's a good question on, we can kind of open it up for some as we finish up formatting general questions. This one on how do you store your ideas? I have one note called ideas, and I put ideas in there. And then when I write one of them, I move it out. If your idea organization system takes more than, you should be able to do it on 1 hour of sleep and write something that day. Otherwise, I think you're creating too complex of a system. That's my, I've tried every note-taking system. I've taken every course on it. I've done all that. It ends up being a lot of productive procrastination.
Yeah.
That's my cold hard truth.
Here's, on that note, here's a little secret. I've been keeping notes in my Apple Notes folder for probably 8 years now, and 99.8% of them I never use. All right. So a lot of times idea capture systems are really just procrastination mechanisms. And yeah, sure, you can have some place that you dump ideas, but what's way more important is you have an idea, go execute on it, go write it in its most atomic form today, go do it.
My, second brain is my Twitter advanced search, where I just search all my tweets because that's where I keep my ideas. I just put them out there. Anytime I have one, I'm like, how can I concisely distill this and put it out there? My kind of pithy take on this is that the human brain, its ability to forget is a feature and not a bug. And so if you spend your whole time like, I got all these ideas, I gotta make sure I never lose them, more than just writing it down, you're trying to rely on too much. I think the best ideas are going to come back to you as long as you just put them, like, all I do is kind of keep post-it notes. Idea, post-it note, like, it's out of my head, it's on the page. If I come back to it later, great. I got those kind of sitting around.
Yeah.
There you go, Ashley. Put that on a billboard. I don't know if I was the first one to say that, so don't credit me on that. All right, we'll go 2 more minutes of general questions, then we're going to preview what we got coming up in the second half.
Yeah, Jody. And I saw a couple of people ask this question. I mean, if you have an idea of something to write about, don't feel like you have to use the endless idea generator, right? Mm-hmm. It's there to help you. But if you already know what you want to write about, go write that. It's more of a framework you can lean on when you go, I don't know what to write about.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a tweet, Andre, about using YouTube to find ideas. You can go find that. I think I tweeted it Friday of last week, something like that. Go to your favorite YouTuber, go to their videos, sort by most popular, and boom, you got 100 ideas. Their headlines are your new ideas.
Yeah. Here's one on, I see one on intros and one on conclusions. So here's my personal rule on writing in general, but intros, conclusions, whatever. Don't tell the reader the same thing you already told them. That's the rule. Okay. So if you're telling yourself, kind of like you hear your 4th grade English teacher in your head being like, well, you need to have a conclusion, right? What's the point of that? No reader is sitting there going, if only this piece had a conclusion, then I would like it more. No, the reader it's not even asking themselves that question. The only thing that matters is, are you giving the reader something that is valuable? Period. So if your conclusion is saying something new and it's valuable, then say it. And if you're just repeating what you've already said so that you have a conclusion, then you don't need it. Because chances are the readers already stopped reading and moved on by then. That's how people read on the internet, right? They're like, oh, you already said that? Back to the cat video. Right? So just don't feel like you have to do that.
Mm-hmm. All right, 1 more minute. What's the last question? What do we got?
Rachel, I feel like a lot of people already cover things I want to write about. So again, go back to the 2-year test, right? What was your unique experience? What is the thing that you've done that gives you that different vantage point, that different point of view? Or if you don't have it, what can you go research? What credibility can you borrow to tilt the conversation in a direction people haven't thought of yet, right? We talk about this all the time. Writing is not about writing. Writing is about thinking. So your job as a writer, okay, it's all getting automated by AI, right? In the next 5 years, AI is going to do 85% of it, okay? So the 15% that's valuable is not you writing. The 15% that's valuable is you thinking what hasn't been said yet. That's the whole game. That's what we're here to show you how to do, okay? So that's where you want to spend your time.
Boom. Cole is a star. That's right.
All right, so let's get into, these are all the fundamentals, right? In the captain's table, we go through each one of these fundamentals and we go down the rabbit hole. All right, so if you go, oh, lean writing is a really interesting framework, I want to see all the different ways I can apply that, we take you down the rabbit hole. If you're like, okay, idea generation is really cool, something I'm still working on, maybe it's something you're struggling with, maybe it's just a skill you want to build, amazing, we go down the rabbit hole. Here's all the different ways that you can generate ideas for yourself. Not just writing. They work for videos, they work for podcasts, they work for all sorts of different mediums. Headlines and hooks. I swear I could talk about headlines and hooks for 30 days straight and not get bored of it. Headlines and hooks to me are 80% of writing. It is like the whole idea is getting people's attention into what you're talking about, right? We go down the rabbit hole. Formatting and writing rhythms. You like 1-3-1, wait till you see 1-5-1. Wait till you see 1-2-5-2-1, right? Wait till you see 1-7-2-1. There's a gazillion different combinations that you can use. We take you down the rabbit hole. So all of these fundamentals we have as mini courses and challenges inside the Captain's Table. And so when you join, this is one of the things that you dig into.
What the realization here is that just one live session, we can't stuff enough. And the whole curriculum of, we could teach an entire course, the whole Ship 30 course, 30 days of headlines, just headlines. So we do everything we can to pack as much into the first 2 weeks with all the fundamentals, but really they go much deeper. But at this point, you have the ability to write on every single platform. And we try to deliver that to you just in the first 2 weeks, where now hopefully you're seeing, well, this is a deep, long game, right? I'm going to be playing this for a long, long time. And we want to empower you to be able to go and do that. So we bulk load everything up in the first 2 weeks of like, how can I go and take this skill set, apply it anywhere? And then in the Captain's Table, we have some deep dives to kind of drive that point home for everyone who joins in the future.
Yeah, there's a reason why, all of the world's highest paid copywriters and, people that really use writing as a craft, novelists, right? Ghostwriters, all of these people, they continue to invest in their own education, right? All of us continue going, well, what else can I add to my toolbox, right? This is not a 30-day game. This is a 10-year, 20-year game, right? So this is all on the fundamental side. This was the first 2 weeks of Ship 30. In weeks 3 and 4, now we start getting into the, okay, doubling down, right? Where are there opportunities? So in the next live session, we go really in the weeds on Twitter threads and writing on LinkedIn. These are like sub-languages of digital writing. You need to understand the fundamentals first, and then you can tweak the fundamentals into writing on these platforms. We get really in the weeds. How do you write Twitter threads? How do you write viral tweets? How do you format your LinkedIn posts? All of that stuff. Then in the session afterwards, we get deep into the analytics. So the analytics are where you start to notice, where are there opportunities? So where are there these little breakout data points that tell you, hey, this might be a really interesting niche for you to explore. And what we find is most of the time people open their analytics and all these obvious insights just go straight past them because you haven't really trained yourself to look for, when is the data screaming at me saying, hey, there's a really interesting opportunity here. You kind of need to learn how to see your writing through a data lens. So that's what we dig into. And then the second to last live session is, okay, now we're going to take all of these things, all these new insights, all these fundamentals, this library that you've built, and we're going to tweak your bio specifically with the goal of how can you name and claim a niche for yourself starting somewhere. We say this a zillion times. We'll say it a zillion more times by the end of Ship 30. It's not a marriage decision. You just need to put your flag somewhere, right? Start there, rewrite your bio, make it clear that you're trying to own this little piece of real estate on the internet. And then over time, you can always move, right? But you got to start somewhere. And then at the very end, our celebration call is always a total blast. We get to share everyone's success stories. We let people come up and speak. It's a whole bunch of fun.
Yeah. Who's excited about the second half? They got the fundamentals down. What looks the most exciting? Twitter threads, LinkedIn posts. We're at the halfway checkpoint. Now's when the real fun begins. If you're still showing up right now, you're writing every day. Now's when the real fun begins. You've bursted through the dip, which is that day 10 to 15 where it's like, I don't think I can stick with this. I don't know if anyone's reading. Why am I doing this? And now we're here at the halfway checkpoint, ready to just keep sailing. I mean, I'm ready. It's going to be a blast. I know Cole's ready. It's going to be a fun next 2 weeks for sure.
That's right. I always love when we get into the data-driven writing side, because it's one of those, no one shows you how to think that way. And the moment you see it, you can't unsee it. The way you write online forever changes. So if you're one of those people where you're sitting there and you're going, okay, I'm getting the fundamentals. This is great. I'm soaking this up. I know this is a game I want to play for a while. And not only do I want to write, but I want to use writing to build other things, right? We have a whole bunch of other challenges and courses inside the captain's table that are for people that are looking for something where it's, I want to use my writing to build assets, right? So one of them, which is what we call the speedboat, which is we focus on really understanding how to name and claim your niche, naming problems from the legacy old category, naming the solution to the new category you want to create, and the whole framework around how do you create a category of one for yourself. Second is Dickie and I have created a whole autopiloting our own content strategies. We want to give that to you. This is our process. Every single week we sit down, we create our content, we use templates, we do it all on one day, we schedule all our content in advance. This allows you to just turn your audience building efforts on autopilot. You don't have to worry about it. Then you can focus on other things. And then third is how do you actually build a newsletter that can get up to, your first 1,000, 10,000 subscribers? What are the different types of newsletters, right? Time-based ones, evergreen ones, ones that are based on your personal credibility, ones that are based on borrowed credibility. These are kind of the first three big decisions you need to make as you start going from writing to building. Now you want to start building off of it.
And after helping 4,000 plus students, these are kind of the three big problems people face as they exit Ship 30. As we get through those first 2 weeks, I learned the fundamentals. It's like, I want to figure out my niche. I want to build my audience. I have these fundamentals down, but how do I get more readers? And then how do I distribute my ideas somewhere off these social platforms, which we talk about with newsletters? So a lot of exciting stuff in there. This is also in the captain's table with the speedboat package. You'll learn all about these as we send out invitations to everyone who has every single badge starting on, I think it's Wednesday this week. Those will start to go out. So make sure you claim your badges and fill out the goal survey so we can know which path's right for you, get you the most helpful educational assets as well.
Yeah. And this is where we would recommend most people go. The speedboat, and starting with, I want to name and claim my niche and have real clarity around that. I want to put my content strategy and audience building efforts on autopilot. And I want to create a newsletter that starts growing so I can nurture the relationships with more loyal readers. This is what we recommend most people start with, because you kind of need this in order to then build from there. Right. So no need to go and skip ahead. This is where you should start. However, there are some people that already have this, or they feel confident that they're already getting close to it, in which case then we have our highest tier part of the captain's table. This is more around how do you create an ultimate guide. So if anyone here has read our ultimate guide to start writing online, we show you how you build a free asset like that, where you can collect emails by giving away this free downloadable asset. This is really great to use as a lead magnet, especially if you have a business. Show you how to create your first digital product and ebook. This does not take 6 months. We're going to show you how to do it in 2 weeks or less. Okay, this is very easy to do. One of the things that we give you is a template here. So you have a template for creating your first digital product if you've never done that before. And then we also have a whole other section called Write the Course, which is, okay, so you've already got the fundamentals, you've got, you're building a newsletter, you've got a lot of these things in place. Now you're ready to go build and launch a course. Not everyone is usually here yet. That's why we say we recommend the thing that we recommend the speedboat. That is more for, that's that next problem that you most likely have. But there's some people that want to skip to the end or already have these things. This is for you. But again, the reason that we group these into different sections in the captain's table is because different people need different things, right? So our goal is to go, okay, well, what is your next logical problem? And how do we help you solve just the next problem, right? You don't need to go skip to the very end. You just need the next problem solved. And that's your current bottleneck.
Yeah, so you'll get a link as we send out captain's table invitations that'll have answers to all these questions. The TLDR is, it's a mix of education and community. So they're slightly separate depending on which path you want to take, but the community assets are all the same. And we'll give you the rundown, all that. So no need to get ahead of ourselves. We just kind of want to prime you because we have a good feeling that a lot of people on this call right now are excited to keep writing, to keep building. And we want to let you know that it's not just Ship 30 and then I don't know what to do after these 30 days. We have all of the big problems and solutions handled for you as we finish things up over the next 2 weeks. So wanted to just lay it all out there for you all.
Yeah. So let's go claim some badges, get rocking. If you have other questions, feel free to post on the replay and we'll try to get to them. But these first 2 weeks were very focused on exploration and building the habit, right? The next 2 weeks are going to be about doubling down.
So today's breakout rooms, we're going to do a badge catch-up session. So during the breakout rooms, you're going to meet some fellow shippers because we know that that's the best part of Ship 30 is just getting to continue to meet. Also, you're going to just go down, pull up the course checklist and make sure everyone has their badge. And we're not going to set a time limit on today. We're basically going to say, once you have every badge, you can go ahead and leave the breakout room. We're not going to come back in here after. So if you want to hang out, keep your breakout rooms open. We are going to close them at 45 minutes after. So if you can't stay all day, but we want to leave them open for you if you want to just hang out and chat, meet some other shippers and all that. So amazing. Claim your badges, get all that. Otherwise, keep writing. That's all we got for today. So if you can't stick around, all good. Want to continue to meet other shippers, stick around for the breakout rooms. Make sure you claim your badges. Be on the lookout for your early captain's table invitations. And that's it. I think that's all we got.